The following tutorial is brought to you by WholeLoops.com.
It's production time. I'm Reid Stefan, realist puppet in the game. Today, we're going to put together your golden vocal production template using third-party plugins. Now, this is the follow-up video to the first vocal template video I did that uses just stock Ableton plugins. I'm going to put a link to that in the description, but this is more for people who are looking for what I use, not so much what you can do using Ableton plugins. So, we've got the example Mr. Boombox by Bad Royale and Henry Fong pulled up. We've got Kara on the vocals here, and these vocal stems are completely unprocessed. So let me just start out by playing the example.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now.
By unprocessed, let me say that again. They've been run through Autotune so far, but that's kind of a given. That's always going to be the first plugin in your vocal chain, especially if you're producing hip-hop music, pop music, or anything anywhere in between. You're going to want to put Autotune first. So this song is in A major, so I just pulled that up in the drop-down menu, told it that it was a tenor part, and I'm actually going to bump this up a little bit because, like I said, for hip-hop,
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me?
hip-hop kind of starts around 25 and goes up to 0.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say if you move my body right.
Definitely can add a lot of swag to something by putting the auto-tune unnecessarily high. Rappers do that all the time, but since this is not quite a rap vocal, this is more singing, I'm actually going to back it off to about 20 or so.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now.
And you only need to touch anything else in the plugin, just copy it around onto the other ones. I already did. And the next thing that we're going to want to do is set up some compression. So let's go into our plugins, and we're going to type in 76 and pull up the Waves CLA-76. Actually, we're going to do the mono one. Since we're working on a mono recording, click on the plugin and hit Command G, and then click this little button right here. Click right here where it says chain. I hit Command R, type compression 76. Just so we know what we're working with. So in this compressor, we're going to want to engage the all button because we're not going to be doing compression on the actual recording. We are going to be creating a dry chain to leave running the entire time. And every effect that we're going to be doing is going to be on a new separate chain. And nothing is really going to go on this dry chain other than the Autotune plugin that we have before it. So let's check it out with our compression.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say if you move my body right, move my body.
Now I really like to slam it up against -20 when I do this parallel thing. Gives it something completely else to combine into the mix with the dry version.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say if you move my body right, move my body.
And right away you could hear why we might want to opt to use this. This has to be in the $50 ballpark plugin as opposed to one of the Ableton compressors. Anyone who watched my last video will right off the bat realize that this just sounds light years better than the Ableton compressor, and that's why we're using it today. The next plugin I'm going to want to load up is an L2. I'm going to use the mono one once again, and this is going to even further squash it. But we're going to bring the squashing and the output gain down evenly.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say if you move my body right, move my body right now. For a long, long time, I got you on my mind, on my mind.
Sounds so much better already. So this is going to really conclude the compression section of this vocal chain. And the next thing that we're going to want to add in is a little bit of stereo spreading. And I'm going to use the Meta Flanger for that, another Waves plugin. I'm a huge fan of Waves plugins. And let's load up the mono to stereo one. Let's call this Flanger.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey,
Make sure you put all of your effects on these individual channels at 100% in the mix, and then use your
hey, yo,
volume.
Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long time, yeah, I got you on my mind, on my mind, Hey, yo, Mr. Boom, hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, hey, yo, Mr. Boom, hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, Boombox.
Sounds a lot better with the flanger there, sounds a lot wider with the flanger there, and it really doesn't sound like the vocal is swirling around in a toilet like it does when you put a flanger directly on it. It's more of a effect that you don't even notice, that just kind of makes it sound like it's like popping.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you
And you can use this control to automate how much you want throughout the song. Maybe you want more of it in the drop section, less of it in the verse section. That's more of a mixing thing though.
Do your 808 sound like floppy trash? Are you constantly struggling to fix weak snares that just never cut it? Here at Whole Loops, we can solve your struggle. Introducing Urban Beats Volume 2, the sequel to our blazing hip-hop and R&B drum kit. This time, we've doubled the sauce and created the perfect selection of special snares, pop-in percussions, and 808s so disrespectful, you'll be getting noise complaints in 60 minutes or less guaranteed. Urban Beats 2 is available only at wholeloops.com.
So let's move on to our next effect. And as we go, our effects are going to get more effecty, more, I should say, less subtle. So let's create another chain, and we're going to set up a slap delay, and we're going to use the H delay for this. An amazing delay plugin. Call this one slap. Okay, so we got our dry wet all the way up. We're going to thin this out a little bit. Mostly thin it out on the bottom, not so much on the top. And instead of having it be from the BPM, we're going to do it from milliseconds.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long time.
Lo-fi's nice.
I got you on my mind, on my mind.
Usually turn analog off.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long time.
Now, that's obviously a little bit extreme.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox.
But you kind of have to start with it extreme to get your knob positions correct, and then blend it in again with the volume on that channel.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now.
Now that we have a pair of effects set up, let's actually do some panning. Let's just do some very subtle panning, because this is going to help it even more just not hang out in the center. That way the vocal can hang out in the center.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me
Then I'll
something
undo it.
right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr.
Redo it.
Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
Sounding good. Next thing that we're going to add is a more proper delay. Let's call this one 1/8. We're going to use this same plugin actually. So let's just copy and paste it right into here. I absolutely love Waves plugins. for vocal production. I don't know, something about the way that they sound is just correct for vocal production. It may not be exactly like some piece of gear sounded like 2 decades ago, like most plugins try to be. These are just correct for just modern vocal production. I absolutely love Waves, and they are so cheap and so worth the money, which is why I'm pretty much just using all Waves plugins in this tutorial, aside from UAD Autotune. But Waves makes a Autotune functionality plugin that's so much cheaper, has everything you need to do the same exact thing. I just got into UAD stuff first, so I have the UAD one, but if you're getting your first set of plugins, you may as well just get the Waves one because it's cheaper. Anyways, I digress. We have our 8th note channel set up, but we don't have our 8th note here. So let's select our host, BPM, and do a 8th note like this. And ping pong is perfect. We're gonna actually do a whole bunch because this is a reggae song. More the merrier.
Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
Let's just turn the volume down a little bit.
Hey, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
Now, to make these delays stand behind the vocal, we're actually going to saturate them with some effect. So I'm going to pull up a chorus plugin. And my favorite chorus plugin is this Studio D thing with all 4 buttons in.
Hey, Mr. Boombox.
Actually, I want to put the chorus on the 8th. On the slap, I'm going to put a flanger. I'm actually going to use the Ableton flanger. I like combining flangers if I can, and the Ableton one sounds honestly better than any plugin that I've ever heard.
Hey, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, Mr. Boom.
So we're basically thickening up our slaps with a little 50%, 40% flanger.
Mr. Boombox.
And then here on our 8th notes, we are kind of creating a stereo spread through detuning using this chorus plugin, and that too is just another trick to help it take a step back so the vocal can stay in the front seat, because it's very easy to clutter up the front seat by just putting a delay on it. A lot of times it needs even more effect on the delays to help kind of separate them so the lyrics don't get muffled by the effects, because people love lyrics and people love effects, and it takes a lot of finessing so that people can enjoy both at the same time.
Hey, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now.
The vocal's already pretty nice right now. I think it needs one more really important delay, which is going to be a half note delay. I'm not really a fan of quarter note delays because I feel like they get in the way of the lyrics. I almost never end up using them, but I freaking love half note delays. I never use my half note delays as a ping pong though. I like it to just be centered, more of like a classic repeat, but obviously with another effect on it to help it not be in the center. And we don't need too many because this is such a slow repetition.
Hey, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right.
All right, so now those delays aren't swagging right to me. I think they're a little bit early. So I'm actually going to use Ableton's simpler delay after this delay at 100% to kind of just be like the swag knob on the delays so that they're late in the pocket like everything else in the beat is.
Hey, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, Mr. Boombox, say, can you
Bouncing. Now, one more effect on these is really going to help take them out of the center, and that is going to be a reverb. Now, I think my favorite reverb for this is going to be Valhalla Room. Something amazing about putting Valhalla Room with this real short and this real high.
Hey, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, yeah.
And those eighth note delays definitely needed to be turned down. And this is the beauty of having a vocal in here when you make your template, because there's a very good chance that the next vocal that you record into these channels is going to sound pretty damn good through these settings, especially if you tend to do the same kind of music.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long, long time,
All right, so now we only have processing on our lead vocal. Believe it or not, this thing is not quite done yet. We're going to take all of our background vocals, hit Command G. Let's call this, and let's also give it a slightly different color so we know that this is an effects channel and not so much an audio channel. Now, before the tutorial, I already went and did my panning the way I like. I always like putting a double hard left and hard right, and everything has a left and right ear, but kind of more spread out panning wise to create a V. I like to really hit all the stops on the panning with my layers, but it's really important to have at least 1 or 2 layers hard left and hard right in your background. But if you're not singing, and this maybe would be ad-libs if you were rapping, a lot of times this same exact template would work just fine for a rap vocal. But anyways, we're going to take this same chain and put it down here on our background vocals. All right, now the only thing that this is missing is some reverb, and I kind of want to do something separately reverb-wise from the backgrounds and the leads. I want to do like a short one on the leads and a long one on the background. So for my short one, I'm going to use verb by, again, Waves plugins always coming through with the sauce. Let's set up a long reverb down here on our background vocals. Whoops. And let's mute our lead. Move this out of the way. Let's bump up the size. Let's bump up the pre-delay too. That's actually sounding pretty good. Kind of like them washed out. 6 seconds sounds really cool at this thing. I love having my background vocals processed with a little bit more reverb than my lead vocal. We're actually going to leave this long one down here and then go back up to our lead, do the same kind of thing, but create a short one. And for my short reverb, I'm going to pull up Valhalla vintage verb, and I'm going to be pulling a nice short one out of the 1980s color. I love this thing. It almost sounds like a flanger.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long.
Let's also load up the exciter. Whoops, can't spell exciter. Getting too excited. After this.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long, long time. Got you on my mind, on my mind.
So now that we've got our whole palette of effects set up and ready to go, the only thing there really is left to do is to separate our background vocals just a little bit more from our leads with some filtering. And these are going to be some plugins that we put just straight on the channel. And this you could really do with any EQ plugin. I'll use the EQ. Let's see. Let's do the Q3 from Waves. I'll use the Fabfilter Pro Q2. Pull up the mono one. And we're going to be doing a pretty serious, not really a subtle low cut. Actually, we're going to be chopping out a whole bunch of stuff. Stuff that is already being filled up just perfectly fine by the lead, and by having it in here in the background vocals, we're actually just kind of making it worse. So there's really no reason to keep background vocals below, I don't know, like 150, especially because that's going to be filled up by the lead. And also on the top end, we're going to be doing some chopping too. And we're going to be picking different amounts for this parameter depending on what part we drop this on. But we're going to do the same thing where this is a high cut, pretty steep one. And bring this down to a frequency that we can
Move my
hear.
body right now for a long, long time, long time.
Yeah, so
got you on my mind, on my mind.
we didn't really need anything from here, and we didn't really need anything from up here, because this is going to be mostly rumble and like kind of body and tone, and this is going to be mostly consonants, like T's and things like that we also don't need. We're really looking for the just power, which kind of comes from here to here. So by getting rid of everything we don't need, this just kind of creates more power in this range, because only this range of stuff is getting sent to the compressors, which is then going to get compressed and expanded upon more. And we're just going to keep on moving on down the chain. Paste this here. Let's listen to this part and see what we want to cut.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox.
This is a higher note, so we can cut even more.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox. Hey.
Yeah, closer to 500. Copy it down to this channel because I like to do everything in pairs. And moving on to our final pair, let's give this a listen.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox. Hey.
All right, so this is even higher. We could chop this off and maybe let a little bit of the high,
Ayo, Mr. Boombox. Hey.
because this is really about the air,
Ayo, Mr. Boombox. Hey.
this layer,
Ayo, Mr. Boombox. Hey.
not so much the note.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox. Hey.
So we're really taking the air from these. And these are our high harmonies. Let's also send them all the way to the outside. I like to send the highest notes to the very outside.
Give me some. Ayo, Mr. Boombox. Hey. If you move my body right, move my body right now.
Now that we have everything filtered, we can actually turn them up in volume a little bit.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox. Hey. If you move my body right, move my body right now. For a long, long time, long, long time. Got you on my mind, on my mind. Ayo, Mr. Boom, ayo, Mr. Boombox.
And there you have it. A clean, ready to record, almost ready to mix template, where you just have to kind of go in and do your automation to maybe cut off certain delays during certain parts of the songs, or certain maybe reverb, less in the verse, more in the chorus. How you automate these things and change things is really how you find your style as a vocal producer, because if you're making hip hop or you're making pop music or dance music, there's a good chance that you're trying to have some vocals that sound good in your track. And I think this is going to help you get very close really right off the bat, because when you track your vocals into this session and play it back, it's going to sound almost finished. It's just the final balance is what you do after the vocal recording session is over. But that's going to be a whole nother video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope this helped you improve your vocals game, because man, it is crucial in this day and age. Again, if you'd like to see this video with just Ableton plugins, I'll put a link to it in the description. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.